Hello and welcome to the Living Lamb's Vegan Kitchen. Today I'm making a creamy soup. It's not terribly different from the creamy butternut squash soup I made some time ago, where you had blended butternut squashes and then you added steamed or Instant Pot and then you added kale. This one's a little bit different in that it's a way to use up the stems of fresh kale. So the stems will actually be blended in. So what's gone on is I've been having trouble finding frozen greens at the grocery store, so I've been getting fresh. And you have all these stems after you take the leaves off, and it's a shame to throw them away. So the concept is to basically get something with body to it. So I'm using sweet potatoes, but you could use squash, or you could use regular potatoes. And so you can have something with body that will blend with your chopped stems. And then cauliflower also has a little body. I don't think you want to use cauliflower all by itself, but cauliflower makes a nice addition because it also adds a little bit of sweetness. So we're just going to put all this in the Instant Pot, steam it, and blend it. And we're going to, of course, add some water too. And so that's the recipe in a nutshell. So let's get started. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to throw my stems in. And this is the stems of 3 bunches of collard greens. But I have also made this with kale. Kale's wonderful. They just happen to have kale. So I'm using collards. And then I've got these 3 sweet potatoes. So I'm just going to, oh my. Might have 2 sweet potatoes. I'm not sure. We'll look at that one in a minute. Not sure if it's a species thing or a problem thing. It's looking like a problem thing. Okay. So. And of course, in the Instant Pot, I don't really have to chunk them up, probably at all, because it'll cook them right down. I'm putting the stems in first. I want those stems to be right in the water to get nice and soft. I would probably use about, 1 potato per bunch of greens that you get the stems from. And I'm probably going to be a little shy of that today because of my bad potato, and I don't have any more potatoes. But let's see if we can salvage any of this potato. Since those other potatoes didn't have this, I'm considering this a problem, and not just the way this particular potato looks. Oh, it looks like we'll get some of this. Hold on, let's see if there's any more. Okay. Just going to throw all that in the Instant Pot. So the cauliflower in there on top. And then I'm going to use about 2 cups of water. And it's almost certain when I go to blend it, I'm going to be adding more water. But this will be enough water to cook it in for sure. You only need about a ½ a cup in the Instant Pot to cook stuff. But I know that I'm going to need more than ½ a cup when I go to blend it. So I'm just going to go ahead and put 2 cups of water in. Put the lid on the Instant Pot. And you know what? I might curry this. I might make this a curry soup. Well, we won't, because you can always add seasoning to it later. So we're going to try it first, and then I'll probably blend some curry in because it's really appealing to me as a curry soup now. So anyway, I'm going to manual. I want my greens really cooked, my green stems, because they're kind of firm. And so I'm putting it manual 20. I'm hitting manual again to turn off the keep warm feature. And then we'll come back when it's gone through natural release and it's cooled down some because it's going to be real hot otherwise. And yeah, I will see you then. Thanks for watching. And welcome back. And so now we're going to blend the soup. And I should mention that I did go ahead and put 2 teaspoons of curry powder in because I couldn't resist it. And I put the lid on the Instant Pot too, which was a necessary thing that I forgot to do. So this has come through, it's cooked for 20 minutes. It's gone through natural release, and it's sat around probably for a couple hours. It's a couple hours later. So everything should be nice and soft. And I had mentioned that I used sweet potatoes, and I mentioned that you could use other kinds of potatoes, but you can also use all kinds of squash, which I can't remember if I mentioned. Like you can use frozen butternut squash or any kind of squash that you can use the skins of, or you can peel a squash and use, squashes, those kind of squashes. If you're wondering what's going on with my hand and why I'm kind of awkward right now, I cut my knuckle this morning. So to keep from bending my knuckle, I've made like a little splint. So that's what's going on and why I'm spilling stuff, because I'm not very dexterous at the moment. So I'm just trying to get the food into the I know I'm not using my left hand, I'm not dexterous, but for some reason it's making me completely undexterous. Don't ask me why. But anyways, what I was saying was, you can use any kinds of squashes, any kind of winter squashes, but you can also use beans. So you could use, beans instead of potatoes, or beans with potatoes, or, combinations of things. So we're going to blend this, and it's going to be a creamy soup. And but to this, you could of course add any kinds of other than cooked vegetables to have stuff, in the soup. Like you could add some corn to it, or you could saute some mushrooms and add mushrooms to it. Whatever you want. I'm going to have to blend some of this down and then put the rest in, or do this in stages, so it won't all fit my blender. And I'm blending in a blend tech. You could probably do it in a food processor. You just want to run it for a long time to make sure it gets perfectly smooth. But you could do it, in any regular blender, I assume as well, because everything's soft. And what happens if it stops blending, it just means it needs more liquid. So first I'm going to use the liquid that's already in here. And that will certainly get it going. Okay, so it's blended, and what I'm going to do, which I meant to do at the beginning, is I'm going to add some miso. This is my favorite miso master. And I'm just going to put a big spoon of miso in there. And I'm also going to add vinegar, because I like vinegar in my soup. You don't have to do either of these things. But I always put vinegar whenever I have greens. I don't know if you ever watch like Carl Esselstyn. He always says use some vinegar with your greens. So I always use some vinegar with my greens. So I'm just going to blend this for another minute. Okie dokie. And so now, of course, other things, of course, you could put in it is you could then add, like, for example, diced carrots. You could add steamed peas. You could put pasta in there and make a kind of, sort of, modified kind of pasta fajoule. But otherwise, you could thin it down, just make it to whatever thickness you want. But there it is, a beautiful, thick soup. And, well, it doesn't do you much good for me to taste it. I will taste it and I'll let you know how it is. Well, I just taste off my finger. It was great, which I'm sure some of you are going to leave me nasty comments about. So anyway, here it is. It's beautiful. It's delicious. And it is. It's really, really, really wonderful. Season it how you like. Oregano would be great. Anything you like with, with the squash you're using, with greens, whatever you like with those, would be great in the soup. So thanks so much for watching, and I hope you all have a great day. Bye-bye. Hey, one last note. I didn't have room in my blender to put everything in my blender, so I had about 2 or 3 cups worth of stems and still cauliflower that wasn't blended, and potatoes, but lots of the stems were left. And so I tasted one, and it was very, very soft. So what I decided to do was just to stir them right back into the soup. And so now the soup has some, some vegetable chunky bits in it as well. So it's a nice creamy soup, both vegetable pieces in it as well. They're absolutely delicious. You'd think they were little potatoes. They were so soft and wonderful. So I just wanted to add that's another thing that you can do. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.